All right, welcome back for another episode of SSD Mythbusters. My name is Jeremy Worley, and each episode here we take on a myth in the world of Social Security disability law, and we prove it to either be true or we bust it as a myth. And the way that we do it is we present it to our in-house legal expert on Social Security disability law, Josh Worley, who's been doing this for over 20 years. Josh, welcome.
Thank you.
Right. So today I want to talk about age-related approval and that whole process, because I think a lot of people out there have some idea of if I'm of a certain age, I get approved. If I'm not, it's harder. So help us sort through all of that. So today's myth is if I'm over 50, I'm automatically approved. If I'm under 50, it's impossible.
All right, so this myth is, it's partly true. There are some elements to it that are true, but we need to discuss a little bit. So when it comes to age and how that impacts your Social Security disability claim, it certainly is easier to get approved if you are older. Okay, so I will tell my clients that I represent, if you are 60 years old and you have certain limitations, and I had a 40-year-old with the exact same limitations, it's easier to get someone that is 60 approved versus someone that is 40, okay? Because the way that Social Security looks at it is, and they take into consideration your age, your education, your work experience, but the easiest way to think of it is that 60-year-old, they look at that person and they say, this 60-year-old is pretty close to their retirement years, and they're not at a point in their life where they can go out and learn a new career, go to school and learn a new profession or develop new skills that would translate to work, okay? As opposed to, so that 60-year-old compared to a 40-year-old, it's more likely that a 40-year-old could develop some skills or do something to give them a chance to work again, okay? And so the older you are, the easier it is to get approved, but there's not any kind of benchmark where you'd say at 50, you get approved really easily or anything like that. It's not ever easy to get approved for disability. Even when you're 60, it's not easy. And it's not just because you're over 50 doesn't mean you're going to get approved. Just because you're under 50, or let's say you're in your 30s or 40s, that doesn't mean that you cannot get approved for disability benefits as well. We've gotten, thousands of people on disability, or hundreds of people probably, that have been approved for disability that are in their 30s or 40s. So it doesn't mean that you can't get approved. It just means the younger you are, probably, the stronger your evidence needs to be to support that disability case. And so, it's partially true in that age does come into play and is a factor, but it doesn't mean that you can't get approved because you're young.
Yeah, I think that makes sense too. If, again, these disability assessments are really in large part done through the lens of your ability to work. If you're younger, you may potentially be able to learn a new, career or new training. Physically, you probably tend to be have more options available to you that can, allow you to do something. Can you sit? Can you stand? So the older you are, probably the fewer opportunities you have to do that, the less your chance of being able to kind of get up and be able to do more of the work that's required.
That's exactly right. And in Social Security, this is kind of getting into the weeds a little bit with Social Security, but there are different age classifications that when you hit a certain age, then it becomes a little bit easier to get approved. And those different age classifications are 50. Once you're over 50, then it's a little bit easier. And then 55. So if you're over 55, then that's a little bit easier than someone that's in their, just turned 50. So 50 and 55 are two benchmarks that when you reach those ages, it's a little bit easier.
Okay. If someone's out there and they're listening and they're saying, well, maybe I'm not sure I'm going to qualify, but I'm going to give it a shot. I may be younger, but I haven't been able to work, or I'm struggling, I'm going to apply. Does it work against them if they apply and get denied, and then 3 or 4 years later they apply and get denied? Does that Will you speak to just the process of someone going through, maybe they're younger and they get denied or they've started this process? Does that hurt their chances later on of getting it? Or can you talk about that?
No, it absolutely does not. The fact that you applied at some point in the past and you got denied and you dropped it and you decided to go back to work, and then 5 years later, you're still, you've got even more issues with your health and it's become even harder to work. The fact that you applied before and got denied does not have any impact at all on this new case or this case that you file later.
So it wouldn't be like someone doesn't just say out there, say, I got one bite at the apple at this thing, I got to save it and I'll wait.
Definitely not. Definitely not. And we've talked about this in other videos, but just keep in mind when you apply, if you get denied, don't give up, file appeals, and you'll see in other videos we talk more in depth about that. But don't give up after one. Keep your appeals going, keep your claim going, and take them to the next steps.
Okay, so again, partially true on this one. 50 is not an automatic, but as you get to be 50, and even you mentioned 55, these are some categories that are more significant for Social Security disability. And so under 50 doesn't mean you can't get approved. It's not impossible, but just be prepared for the expectations. You're going to have to prove up more. I mean, your disability may have to be more significant than someone that may be same disability but be older. So thanks for helping us sort through that. Hopefully you found that helpful. If you did, be sure and give us a follow. We're going to keep producing a lot of content out there like this. We found that's helpful for a lot of people. We're trying to answer those questions that we get the most. So we're going to keep doing it. Also, you can find us at the Injury and Disability Law Center. That's where we practice full time. Josh has a nationwide Social Security disability law practice where he represents claimants all over the country. So give us a call or check us out at idlawcenter.com where you can find out a lot more information. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.